Good afternoon. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this very important meeting as we do the people's work here. And at this time, would you please stand for the invocation that will be given by Councilman Curtis Edmonds, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I could ask each of you, could we please have a moment of silence? Last week, we lost two individuals that were extremely important to our region. One, a citizen of Portsmouth, Dr. Albert Ure, and the other one, Admiral Ray Taylor, who was a huge advocate for transportation and Hampton roads. And so if we could, Dr. Edmonds, a moment of silence for both of those individuals. Dr. Albert Ure, as we all know, served in the United States Army, and upon his return, he spent his career in education here in Portsmouth, as well as been involved in a lot of civic activities. And both of those gentlemen were funeralized on Saturday. And so with that, a moment of silence, and then Dr. Edmonds.
Gracious God, our Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day, for this gathering. We thank you for our journey thus far. We realize, God, that our steps were ordered by you. Now, Lord, as we deal with the people's business in the city of Portsmouth, we ask that you bless those of us who've been elected and those who come to share with us their concerns and needs. And as we present things that we have to vote on, movements that we have to make, all for the same cause of making our city a great city. Help us, Lord, to disagree but not be disagreeable. Help us to compromise and come to something that we all can feel good about. Bless us in that effort, Lord, and not take a vendetta against anyone, but that we all come together to work as a unit of one. We know we can only do that when you're in our midst. So bless what we shall do here tonight, that it will be pleasing to you and in your sight. We give you glory and praise for it. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members of City Council, would you please indicate your presence electronically?
7 members of City Council are present.
Members of City Council, you have before your consideration the minutes of a call meeting of August the 26th, 2013, a call meeting of August 27th, 2013, and a regular meeting of August 27th, 2013. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically.
Okay, very good.
The minutes are adopted 7-0.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. 13-375, presentations. Presentation of special lapel pins to newly appointed board and commission members. If the following would join the Vice Mayor at the Sergeant-at-Arms desk, please. With the Wetlands Board, Ms. Lena Simmons. With the Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission, Mr. James Jewell. The Social Services Advisory Commission, Reverend Johnny Drake. And the Supplemental Retirement Board, Ms. Jacqueline Scott.
Can you please come back? We want We want to get all y'all collectively on camera, and the vice mayor has some encouraging words and words of gratitude and all of those good things. So give us about a minute.
Yeah,
Vice
you missed all
Mayor.
those great things the mayor said I was going to say. but really, on behalf of the mayor and the entire council, we do want to thank you all. First, congratulate you on being appointed, and thank you all for being willing to give up your time and yourself to serve the city. You know, the decisions you'll make, the recommendations you'll bring to us will help us make the important decisions we have to make for everybody. So for the mayor, for the council, and for the citizens, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. But did you all like to have a few words to say, you know? I know the Reverend always got a few words. I know.
Praise the Lord, amen. It's always good, amen, to be in a place where people have come together to work out their differences and the things that are alike. But we've come, amen, and joined in so that we can be a part of the movement of the city, that it moves toward the place that we would have it to be, where all the citizens would benefit as well as the council members. So we thank you for the appointment, and we look forward to doing a great job here in the city.
I thank the city for the opportunity. Being part of LEFCO, I was pleased to be part of LEFCO, but part of LEFCO is serving the city. And Portsmouth is a jewel, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure the whole globe that Portsmouth is a jewel and the best city on the planet.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
He's an engineer, by the way.
That's why I don't talk a lot. I'm happy to be a part of the board, so I hope that's good enough.
Good evening. I am also happy to be part of the Portsmouth Supplemental Retirement Board, and I look forward to doing good work. I have a deep and unbinding faith in the city of Portsmouth, and it can only survive if we all work together and if we put aside differences when it comes to the growth of this city. And again, I really look forward to working with this group and as I continue my work with the Department of Social Services. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and we look forward to working with you. And to all you out in the audience and those at home, we still have vacancies to fill, so feel free to go to the website and find one that you're interested in and submit your application. Or if you don't have internet access, you can call the clerk's office and she'll be glad to assist you. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to call Mr. Carter Kostler to join the mayor at the Sergeant-at-Arms desk, please.
It is a great pleasure for me, come on over here, Carter, to introduce this young man. I think about a month or maybe a month and a half ago, I mentioned here in our chambers that a young man from the Virginia Beach Public School System had sent the mayor this bottle that he designed, and it's called Define Bottle. And he had read up on our health initiative and our challenges here, and he wanted to be a part of this. Well, I thought it was great. I wanted to bring him in and introduce him to everyone and everyone watching on television. Well, we set up a meeting, myself, him, and his parents. I think his father's still here. Doc, you want to come on up? And well, by the time we set the meeting up and he came, he had further good news. Well, prior to that, there was a huge article in the Virginia Pilot on this young man and this bottle here that, Define bottle that he designed. I'm going to set this here. This young man has had an interesting year to be a freshman, or started out as a freshman at Cox High School. He's met the former president, Bill Clinton, on the West Coast at a health conference. He also met the First Lady this year at a health conference, and his design here was actually featured in both. President Clinton mentioned him and his bottle, and I think the First Lady and some others in the White House with their health initiative mentioned this product. So we're extremely proud of him. We actually met to talk because he called and wanted to do something in partnership with our city. And as we talked, it's more along wanting to do something with our school system. And so we're going to introduce him to our school board and superintendent and see if we can't work in unison on something collectively, because Carter also shared with me when we met last week that he was selected by President Clinton to serve as the youth advisor in this area for the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. Now, there are 20 young people throughout the country that serve on this advisory board to former President Clinton, and Carter is the young man that was selected for our area. So how about let's give him a hand for that. And before I turn the mic over to him, you know, we always talk about our children are always watching us. They're always listening. Well, he came up with this idea because he watched his mother make fruit water. She loved fruit water. She'd mix it in the pitcher, and she was always rushing. She'd drink it and leave it on the counter and go off to work. And he wanted to find a way for Mom to be able to have a portable way to take her fruit water. That's how these ideas start in our young people's minds. And this was launched in birth, and I'm sure Dad was just dragged into it because that's what dads do. But with that, we're looking forward to working with him and President Clinton. This could not only be some national exposure for Portsmouth. Now, why you picked our project, you say you read about our Healthy Portsmouth initiative, our 500,000 pounds that we're trying to lose in the city. And as part of on this advisory board, Carter has to meet quarterly with the rest of the members and the former president and talk about his project. So the word Portsmouth is going to be used on the phone to President Clinton several times, right? And so and we're thrilled that he selected our city to want to work, and I want to just give you a minute to maybe share, because I see one of our school board members, Pastor Fleming, would you please stand? Is there another school board member here? Okay, please share briefly what you thought your idea you might want to work with our school system on.
Okay, absolutely. And thank you, by the way. So what the mayor said before, I'm currently on President's Youth Advisory Board for the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. It's 20 kids of the whole country that are selected to help make a difference in their local area. So I thought the city of Portsmouth would be a great opportunity to do this. And I was thinking for part of my project of doing a collaboration with the mayor, the city, and the school systems. I was thinking of kind of a competition that we could do between the schools maybe, or even in classes that encourage healthy habits. And I want it to go big, though. I want a corporate sponsor. I think that would be great. And a corporate sponsor. And I just really want to make a difference here. And I'm excited to possibly work with you, Mayor.
Now, one of the challenges you said was what, eating fruit? Or you want to count how many kids or how many of us eat fruits? Was that part of our plan, or what you want to roll out? Or you want to think about that and get with the school board with how they count what kids eat and all of those types of things? Is that a good way to preference it?
Right. Well, we want something that is easily trackable. So we're thinking of maybe doing it in the lunch programs, counting the amount of healthy foods bought, maybe. Something that's easily trackable is pretty much what we're trying to aim for.
All right. With that, we want to thank you and congratulations. How was it meeting the First Lady and President Clinton?
Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. Thank you very much. Doc, thank you very much. All right. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you. And I forgot to mention, I think I asked Carter, why did he come up with the name Define Bottle? Because he said, you define what you put in it. It could be a lemon, oranges, apples, peaches, whatever. So sounds like we got a future engineer in our midst with the fine bottle. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. City council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you please conclude your remarks at that time. Public hearing, 13-376. Public hearing to consider the proposed new fee schedule for the city's erosion and sediment control program as referenced in Chapter 11 and Appendix A of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, 2006. And at this time, Mr. James Wright will come forward for a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm here to introduce our recommended proposed new fee structure for our erosion and sediment control program. Okay, the city has a stormwater permit. The erosion and sediment control program is a key component of our stormwater permit. This permit is administered by the state, is enforced by the Environmental Protection Agency. The erosion control program is based on the Virginia Erosion and Sediment Control Law. The erosion and sediment control program is composed of plan review, inspections, monitoring, and reporting. It is intended to protect our natural resources as required by the Clean Water Act, to meet state and federal requirements for controlling runoff from construction sites, and it's meant to protect the city's stormwater drainage system. This is our existing fee structure. Basically, for every inspection that we do on a project site, we charge a fee. Inspections are every 2 weeks for our routine inspections. Once you get to a violation, that frequency is increased to a weekly inspection. Once you get to a stop work order, all fees are due at that time. If you go through the entire project without any compliance inspections or stop work orders, all your fees are due at the end of the project. The reasons for the recommended changes that we're proposing. We're proposing a flat rate fee. There is a perception that we're penalizing people when we go to do inspections, but our inspections are actually required by the regulations. If there was no fee at all, we would still have to do those inspections, but they're a user fee meant to offset some of the costs of the program. It's also meant to simplify the process for both staff and developers. It's a lot easier to budget for your project if you know what those costs are going to be up front. It eliminates on-site conflicts. There's not a conflict between the inspector and the superintendent over you're just coming because you want to charge me a fee. I'm coming because I need to inspect the project because I also have to comply with my permit as well as you have to comply with your permit. There are no fees at the close of the permit, so there are no surprises by either party. So to come up with those fees, we looked at all the fees that we collected since 2009. And we established categories based on the project type. So we looked at single-family construction, multifamily construction, subdivisions, commercial properties, and demolition. We used an average cost of what it would expect for each type of project to come up with the new fee structure. So there's a flat fee established for each project type. And that fee includes the cost of the permit and all associated inspections. Fees are collected at the issuance of the permits. No fees collected at the end. The impact on revenue is minimal. Like I said, these are all based on the fees that have been collected prior. So there shouldn't be any cost difference between these fees and the fees prior to. The fees that you collect are more based on the amount of development that you get. So they're based on trends in development, not necessarily. They're based on trends in development. Sorry. And we have vetted these fees with the Tidewater Builders Association, and they have signed off. And this just steps you through, shows you different categories. Like I mentioned before, you have single-family demolition, multifamily demolition, commercial demolition. You have single and multifamily residences. You have commercial less than an acre, between 1 and 5 acres, and commercial above 5 acres. Similarly, you have site work for subdivision, and then you have it broken down for the single-family and multifamily lots within the subdivision. When we looked at comparing this proposed fee structure to the region, it's difficult to compare because no one locality sets their program up in the same manner. As you can see by who performs the inspections in each city, they're not done by the same people, the same departments. All programs are structured differently, so it's difficult to make that comparison. Fees are typically absorbed by other parts of the development process in other cities. In summary, our erosion and sediment control program is required by our state stormwater permit. These recommended fees will have a minimal impact on revenue. We think it'll benefit staff and developers because it'll be a more efficient process. Fees will be collected at the issuance of the permit. It'll save time for both staff and the developer. It'll help with budgeting. And once again, there'll be no surprises at the close of the project, and we hope that it'll eliminate some of the on-site conflicts between inspectors and developers. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Members of council, there are no registered speakers on this item. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing to consider the proposed new fee schedule for the city's erosion and sediment control program as referenced in Chapter 11 and Appendix A of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on this specific public hearing. Members of council, there are no speakers on this item. This public hearing is closed. 13-377, public hearing on use permit applications. Item A, UP 1310, Churchland. Alice Amory of Amory Seafood 2 requests a use permit to operate an entertainment establishment with live entertainment at 6031 High Street. The future generalized land use map and the comprehensive plan calls for this area to be developed as commercial and is located within the Churchland Community Activity Center. Vision principle, a robust economy for working men and women, electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, my name is John Hartley, Planning Administrator with the City Planning Department. Before you tonight is a request for an entertainment use permit for Amory Seafood 2, located at 6031 High Street in the City Line Plaza. On the left is a new sign that's gone up in front of the business. On the right is the zoning map with the property highlighted with a hashing. And you'll notice that most of the area is zoned commercial. The strip that is purple is actually the old Commonwealth Rail property that goes through the Churchland area. There is a small area in the city of Chesapeake that is actually zoned residential as well. And you can see that in this photo. On the lower left, you can see some cul-de-sacs that have been built recently and there are new homes going into that area. The site in question on your agenda tonight is designated with the red star, and other highlighted sites would include the Kroger in the lower right-hand corner and the redone Harris Teeter that's there on High Street. Again, this property is essentially surrounded by commercial development, except for to the south where you have the residential development in Chesapeake. This is a closer in view of the property itself, the City Line Plaza. Amory's is going into the building in the center. It's the old Shoney's building, and it's designated here with the red star. Of note also is one of the staff and planning commission recommendations is some landscaping, and you'll notice that the islands in the front of this facility are actually in the city right-of-way, and that'll require a maintenance agreement with the city to install landscaping to ensure that they are responsible for maintaining it. This is a picture of the restaurant itself. And they're in the process of remodeling the building and trying to get up and running. And then looking west into the city of Suffolk, or excuse me, the city of Chesapeake, looking down High Street, and then looking back towards the city, you have the lower photo looking towards High Street, and then to the north, you have you have a veterans clinic or a veterinary clinic and a Rite Aid. The Planning Commission considered this item at their meeting in August and determined that the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the requirements of the ordinance. Their vote was 5-0 in favor, recommending approval of this. There are also a number of conditions which you have a copy of. Those conditions limit the total number of people that can be in the establishment at any given time, hours of operation, proper security, and there are a number of other standard items that we require for entertainment establishments. That concludes my presentation, and I'll try to answer any questions that you have. I'll also let you know that Mrs. Amory is here if you have questions of her. She's available.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? What kind of timetable are we looking at before she opens? Can she answer that?
She might want to answer that herself. I know she's anxious to get open.
I'm Alice Amory, and I'm with Amory Seafood too. And the date I hope to open was July 15th. But there's been so many things go crazy that I'm hoping at least 3 or 4 more weeks.
3 or 4 more weeks. Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing for item UP 13-10. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP 13-10. Members of council, this public hearing is closed.
Councilwoman Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say, Ms. Amory, I should have said this when you were up here. We're really excited to have you back. I'm sure most of you are aware Amory's was a Churchland landmark for years, and we lost them for a while to Chesapeake, but we're very glad that they're coming back home to Portsmouth and to Churchland, and can't wait for you to open and come back for some crabs. Thank you.
Well done.
Members of council, we're in need of a motion.
Move that we adopt it.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is approved, 7-0. Item B, UP 13-11, Long Point Subdivision. Dana Harris requests a use permit for a family child care home at 4005 Eptide Lane for 12 children aged 6 weeks old to 12 years old. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends low to medium density single-family residential development. Vision principle, lifelong learning community, and neighborhood and a sense of community. Electronic roll call, and I have a speaker. Ms. Porter.
Yes, good evening. My name is Stacy Porter, and I'm Senior Planner with the Planning Department. And I will provide an overview of the applicant's request for a family child daycare home known as Harris Family Daycare, located at 4005 Ebbtide Lane. According to the Virginia Department of Social Services, the facility has been in operation since December 8, 2008. The applicant has been licensed with the City of Portsmouth to care for up to 5 children since 2002. The applicant is requesting the use permit to care for up to 12 children. The applicant's property is located in Churchland in the Long Point subdivision. The property is zoned General Residential GR and is approximately 10,892 square feet and contains a 2-story, 2,982 square foot single-family residence. The property is completely surrounded to the north, east, south, and west by the Long Point subdivision, which contains residential development. This is the submitted site plan. The applicant's 2-story residence accommodates childcare activities within a renovated room that was formerly a 2-car garage and the family room. An outdoor play area is provided in the rear yard, which is approximately 4,000 square feet in size and equipped with playground equipment. The play area is fenced with 6-foot-high privacy fencing. According to Portsmouth City Code 40.1-5.1, off-street parking, loading, and circulation, the parking requirement for a family child daycare home is 3 spaces plus 1 for every staff member. City Council's interpretation of this code section requires 3 off-street spaces plus 1 for each full-time staff member. Therefore, the business must accommodate 4 off-street parking spaces, which can be accommodated. 4 stacked vehicles can be accommodated within the property's driveway. Therefore, the applicant meets the off-street parking requirement. Planning staff finds that the proposal meets the requirements for a family child daycare home and the use permit standards in Portsmouth City Code Chapter 40. Planning Commission concurred with this recommendation and voted 5-0 to approve the applicant's request, and that concludes the presentation. The applicant is available for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacey.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Our speaker is Ms. Dana Harris.
Good evening, City Council chambers. I'm Dana Harris, and I'm the proud owner of Harris Family Daycare. And this is my home where I reside, and I just enjoy what I do. Being a licensed state provider is not just having a license, it's a privilege to have a license. And I'm very proud to say that I do own that. When my parents walked in, it's posted where they can see that. I have also MAT training, which that means that I can give medication over the counter or prescription. All my forms are through the state. I also have a city permit, and I do have also one through the fire department. Excuse me. The reason for that is it doesn't really, not a requirement, but it's something that I choose to do to make sure that my home is physically and is protected for when a child walked in or whoever lived there is not in no danger. To have a state license, almost like having a daycare center. We have to do a criminal background check, Child Protective Service, TB shots, and a sworn disclosure, which means that we have to sign on and off that if we have any problem with the law in or out of Virginia. We also require myself and my part-time employee to do 16 hours of training. We always go above that. Sometimes we have even 40 hours a year. Because to me, maybe 16 hours might be okay for one individual, but every day is a learning experience, and sometimes you forget, and it just comes in like a refresher. I'm also a student of Tidewater Community College, which I have a 3.8 GPA, which I'm very proud of. I'm taking early childhood education, and just to see my babies, that's what I call them. I'm very proud of that. Being a family day home is the early start for kids. It's not when they wait to get to school. We lay the foundation, so when they get to school, either private or public school, they already have that in them, instilled, something that they know that is part of life experience. Having my babies come in every morning we have built a relationship between my babies and their parents. I used to work a long time ago for a daycare center, and sometimes daycare centers, just like public school, are overcrowded. We have more smaller setting where we can allow to give the children a one-on-one time and hugs and getting that extra attention that some of them don't even get. We are the person that they see in the morning that might even tell them that they love them if somebody didn't tell them do that during the day. Sometimes their parents might be rushing. That don't mean that they don't love them, but sometimes the way of things goes, you just a rush. That's all society is at this point. My room is set up in centers. We got blocks, we got manipulative, we got computers, we got a library which they check out books on Monday, come back on Friday. They get a little bit of homework, science, everything is there for them to learn, just like when they walk into the school. At the beginning of the day, we do say our Pledge of Allegiance, and we do talk about what we've got to be in the future because they are our future. So we need to just make sure that we feed their minds and let them know that, you know what, they can become whatever they want to be by giving them positive guidance and just reassuring them that they can do whatever they want. My playground is very safe. I have to meet state guidelines all the time. I know having 5 children, I mean, you can do 5 children and don't even have a permit. I would rather have, hopefully, more than 5 and have a permit, and I'm still going to get, state regulation and city regulations. I love what I do. It's not just my job, but it's just, it's just me. It's something that just happened to me. This is my calling. And hopefully, city chambers will realize that what we're doing is not just for us, but for our kids and our parents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harris. I want to thank you for your passion and for all of what you want to do for our young people. It is good to hear someone speak with your passion about caring for our children, and good luck with that. Ms. Randall?
Thank you.
I'm so happy to hear your enthusiasm for working with children, particularly in the early years. I was one who also worked very closely with the children. And what you have described to us, I know this is going to be a successful program.
Thank you.
The thing about it is that you are familiar with the curriculum. I could tell
Yes,
that as you
yes,
were
I do
talking.
teach that.
I was an early childhood major out of Columbia University.
Yes.
So I'm very much familiar with what you're saying, but the interesting thing is there is a commitment from within you as you talk about the children that say you love them. And in order
my
to
babies.
work and nurture very young children, you have to sincerely care for them. And I can feel your compassion for those children. I wish you well, and if I can be of assistance with you, I'm happy to be
Thank
there.
you.
God bless you.
Thank you. I've been doing this for almost 20 years.
Praise
working
the
in the
Lord.
center and working in my home. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night. Madam Clerk?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP 13-11. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP 13-11. Members of City Council, this public hearing is closed.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is approved, 7-0. Item C, UP-13-12, Hidden Cove Subdivision. Ophelia Goodwin requests a use permit for a family child care home at 5927 Eagle Point for 12 children, aged 6 weeks old to 12 years old. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends low to medium density single-family residential development. Vision principle, lifelong learning community, and neighborhood and sense of community. Electronic roll call, and I have a speaker.
Good evening again. Stacy Porter, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. And I'll provide an overview of this applicant's request for a family child daycare home known as Little Imaginations at 5927 Eagle Point. According to the Virginia Department of Social Services, the facility has been in operation since March 16, 2011. The applicant has been licensed with the City of Portsmouth to care for up to 5 children since 2010. The applicant is requesting the use permit to care for up to 12 children. The applicant's property is located in Churchland in the Hidden Cove subdivision. The property is zoned General Residential Conditional, GRK, and is approximately 11,144.6 square feet and contains a 2-story single-family residence. The property is completely surrounded to the north, east, south, and west by the Hidden Cove subdivision, which contains residential development. This is the submitted site plan. The applicant's 2,246 square foot 2-story residence accommodates child care activities within a renovated room that was formerly a 2-car garage and the dining room. An outdoor play area is provided in the rear yard, which is approximately 5,000 square feet in size and is equipped with playground equipment. The play area is fenced with 6-foot-high privacy fencing. According to Portsmouth City Code 40.1-5.1, off-street parking, loading, and circulation, the parking requirement for a family child daycare home is 3 spaces plus 1 for every staff member. City Council's interpretation of this code section requires 3 off-street parking spaces plus 1 for each full-time staff member. The business is staffed full-time by the applicant and 1 part-time assistant. Therefore, the applicant must provide 4 off-street parking spaces for the business. 4 stacked spaces can be accommodated within the property's driveway. Therefore, the applicant meets the off-street parking requirement. Planning staff finds the proposal meets the requirements for a family child daycare home and the use permit standards in Portsmouth City Code, Chapter 40. Planning Commission concurred with this recommendation and voted 5-0 to approve the applicant's request. And this concludes the presentation, and again, the applicant is available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Simmons?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Porter, the application we previously just approved
Yes.
was for opening no earlier than 6:30 in the morning and no later than 8:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
This one's 6:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. So if this lady decides next year to stay open till 6, she'd be in violation of her use permit and have to come back.
She would.
Is there any reason to not maybe amend this to say 8:30 p.m. on the
If you'd like
evening
to,
end?
that would be a good idea.
I just hate to tie her to 5:30. I mean, that's, if she ever wants to be till 5:45 or 6 or 6:30, she'd have to come back all over
She
again.
would, and I agree.
Maybe we'll ask the applicant.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Councilman Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. Also have a question. I noticed they have a substantial backyard, I guess, playground area for
They
the
do.
children.
Yes.
Do the children have to be indoors by sunset?
We don't have any guidelines that specify that.
At one time,
At one time, we did.
We did. Why
Yes, we
was that
did.
removed? Because I thought that was a very good provision. And
When
I-
the zoning ordinance was amended, those guidelines did go away, but I couldn't elaborate more than that. But I do remember when our zoning ordinance was updated, those guidelines did go away. But I do remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, because that particular provision was put in at the suggestion of some parents back a few years ago, and I've recently noticed, in looking at these, I haven't been able to find it. So
Right.
it went away. I would certainly recommend that we revisit that provision. Obviously, sunset, obviously the days are longer in the summer, but if we would go back with the verbiage of sunset, I think that would take care of it.
Sure,
'Cause
okay.
I don't think anybody wants their kids out past dark. You know, I don't know whether the facilities are lighted or what the deal is. Certainly you don't want them out there at dark during the wintertime. So
Absolutely.
I would like to see us add that back if there's
Okay.
concurrence with that. I think it's a good provision.
Dr. Edmonds.
I would think that the persons that run the daycare would be mindful of that. I would think that the daycare persons that manage that would be mindful of that.
They should be, and the state actually, they oversee quite a bit of the regulations for the child care centers, so I'll tell you, we will look into that. I thank you for that recommendation.
Well,
do.
I would like to think they would be mindful of it,
Yeah.
but as we found out this week, some people's interpretation of what's appropriate and what's not leaves a lot open for interpretation. So it's up to us
Sure.
to protect the children.
Absolutely.
Ms. Rand?
I would echo the same thing that Pastor had, that most of the child care centers at dusk are, the children are inside of facilities.
Right.
And usually there's a person out there with them. But to ensure that whatever the guidelines are adhered to, follow through to check with it.
Sure.
But I have noticed with many of the child care centers around, in my neighborhood and in others, the children usually inside the buildings because now the weather is getting dark
Sure.
earlier. But
Exactly.
in the summer and the spring of the year, they are out a little bit longer. And most of them I've seen have supervisors with them.
Gotcha.
So I think we need to make sure we're on top of that.
Sure.
Thank you, darling.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Stacy.
Okay.
Our speaker is Miss Ophelia Godwin.
Good evening. Glad to see everyone today. Thank you for taking this opportunity to listen to us child care providers. If I look a little tired, I am. I'm supposed to be at school right now in my psychology class, but my teacher is letting me come here to take care of this. Being state licensed to kind of address what you were talking about as far as the time that we have children outside. When you're a state licensed child care provider, you're mandated by the state. You're assigned a state inspector who comes to you unannounced, and there are certain guidelines and requirements that we have to meet. When we take the children out, it's just the same recess that you would have at school time. So they have morning recess and they have afternoon recess. Afternoon recess is before 3 o'clock. We have to be mindful that when we live in our homes, it is our home, but we live in a neighborhood. So we have to be mindful of our neighbors. The children's ages that we take care of, they're not allowed to be outside unattended or monitored at any given time. So therefore, normally kids are in the home at least by 4, even in the summertime, because there are different activities that we're doing. It could be art, it could be circle time. There are different things because we follow a curriculum. So it's not just outside time that they have. They're structured times, and we have a schedule. When the state comes in, they look at our bulletin board, and we have to show what happens from the time that child arrives in your daycare center until the time that child goes home, and what is being done every second of the day. So those are things that we have to follow. I just kind of wanted to address that a little bit to give some clarification. I, along with Ms. Dana, doing childcare is something you don't just wake up and say, oh, I'm going to do childcare. You literally have to love taking care of children, Being a mother of 2 kids myself, one who attends Norfolk State in her 3rd year of graphic design, and my oldest who just graduated Virginia State and is now in Africa teaching English. I know the importance of an early start and an early foundation for, for our children. Anyone who works in childcare knows that before the age of 5, it is a critical time. Our children are like sponges. Anything and everything that they're going to learn is at that time. Whatever we try to do after the age of 5, right? Whatever we try to do at the age of 5 is just kind of giving substance to what they've already learned. It is important that our parents are able to take their children somewhere where they know that they're being taken care of, nurtured, and cared for. We have so many guidelines to meet. Being state licensed is hard. You just don't become state licensed because you want to do childcare. It's rigorous. It's constant inspections, background checks, a thorough inspection of your whole home. And I don't know how many people would just let someone come into their home whenever they show up and thoroughly go through your home, every inch of your home. That, to me, takes a lot for anybody. The parents that we have, the relationship that we build with the parents, they become family. Our children are family. And, you know, we follow the city and state guidelines. The city says that for us to do child care, 5 children, you need to have a business license, which we have done. If you want to have more than 5 children, state says you have to be state licensed. But then if you want to also have more than 5 children in your home and have 12, you have to do zoning, which is what we're doing. So we have many people who don't follow the guidelines, but when you're taking care of children, you can't be a person who breaks the rules. You got to follow the rules, and that's what we want to do. We want to make sure we're meeting the guidelines because we're the person that sets the example for our children on what's right and what's wrong. So we're just asking council to take into consideration the importance of early childhood education and the effect that it plays on our children's life because these are our children of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Well done. Councilman Moody.
Thanks, Mayor, and I'd like to thank you for the information. I do have a question on the state inspectors. How often do they come around?
Well, they can come at any time that they want to. When you're state licensed, you also have a USDA inspector. So you have the USDA coming through, you have your state inspector. Your state inspector can come twice a year. They can come every month.
How often do you see them?
Well, because the way the state works is according to violations. If you're meeting your guidelines and you're not having violations, I'm talking about things that are hindering or a safety hazard. Violations are posted on the state website, and anyone who's state licensed, you can pull up their information and you can see their guidelines. The state will give you a violation if your water is 1 degree hotter than it should be, which is a minor violation compared to someone who is watching 14 kids or having children unattended. So it's up to your inspector. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you won't have somebody riding your back. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, they're going to be there every day if they have to.
It's probably complaint-driven? Is that accurate?
I'm sorry?
I said their visits are probably complaint-driven?
No, their visits are guidelines-driven. If you're meeting and you're following guidelines, for instance, you don't have violations that cause the state concern of safety for the children, then you're doing what you're supposed to do. Now, if your inspector has to talk to you too many times about one thing, or you don't correct the violation, it's up to your inspector. We can't really say. I know I follow the guidelines, so, you know, my inspector can come twice, she can come 3 times, but that doesn't mean I stop doing what I'm supposed to do.
So the state people, they follow the local inspectors, and if there've been problems there, then they look into it farther?
Well, actually, your state inspector can shut you down because it's the same state inspectors that mandate the child care facilities. So it's the same state inspectors that we have. They are also in charge of the daycare facilities.
Gotcha. Good luck in your business.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Simmons.
Ms. Godwin, I just wanted to ask you about if you had any objection to my if I amend your application to allow you to stay open later than 5:30.
No, that's perfectly fine.
I'm just trying to give you some leeway so you don't have to come back.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP 13-12. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP 13-12. Members of council, this public hearing is now closed.
I'd like to move for approval with an
Second.
amendment.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically, noting the amendment of the time,
To 8:30 PM.
8 or 8:30.
8:30, that's what the other
8:30.
one says.
This item is approved 7-0. City Managers Report 13-378, adoption of an ordinance accepting a grant in the amount of $10,550 from the Business Consortium for Arts Support and appropriating said amount in the FY 2013-14 Grants Fund for the outdoor sculpture competition and exhibition at the Portsmouth Art and Cultural Center. Vision Principle, Lifelong Learning Community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers. Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 13-379, adoption of an ordinance to appropriate $759,357 in the FY 2013-14 City Garage Fund for operating costs and revenue for the Portsmouth Public Schools Vehicle Maintenance Services Contract. Vision statement, efficient, responsive government, electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. New business 13-380, boards and commissions. Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mayor, members of the council, there are no appointments to announce tonight. As always, we're in need of volunteers for various boards and commissions. If you go to our website, you can see a list of upcoming vacancies as well as an application that you can fill out online and submit, or you can call our clerk's office and they'll certainly see to it you get an application. But if you want to volunteer, we're willing to put you to work, and I think you'll have a lot of fun doing it. Thank you.
13-381, items submitted by council members.
Let me, first of all, say congratulations to the town of Portsmouth, Rhode Island. As most of you know, last week I attended a 375th anniversary for the town of Portsmouth, Rhode Island. They're the oldest Portsmouth city/town in the country, and we were honored to have the Lord Mayor of Portsmouth, England, to come over in that celebration, and it was a grand affair. Portsmouth, Rhode Island is a small town of about 18,000 people, and the next oldest city is Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and we're the baby of the three, and we're 261 years old. But they had a parade that they did in grand fashion, and I found out after the parade it was the first time they did one in 20 years. They had quite a few activities and similarities. I actually opened up the front page of the paper. The Lord Mayor and myself were naturally featured in the headlines. They thought it was a big deal for us to come, as well as the Mayor of New Hampshire. But they had just passed an ordinance on chickens, and I laughed. And the reporter had actually came to the hotel room wanting to talk about some similarities. And during the parade, naturally the press was following us all around, and I'm coming down just behind the Grand Marshal, and there's a vehicle off to the side that said, "No tolls, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight." And I got off the viewing stand during the parade and went over to it and took a photo, and one of the folks from I think it was the Newport Daily Press, came over and asked me what was my fascination with that. And so I explained that to him. And before I knew it, Sunday morning in the headlines of the Providence Sunday paper was the mayor of Portsmouth and the mayor of Portsmouth, Rhode Island, fighting tolls. And they had a whole article about that. And they've got a bridge over there to an island that the citizens feel that was not quite convenient for them or anyone else. And so there were quite a few similarities in a lot of the things that we're doing, but it was well attended, and it was great to see cities and towns come together and people just enjoying and understanding things. And it was also great to talk to the Lord Mayor of England. The city of England, Portsmouth, England, is half our size. We're 33 square miles. They're 15 square miles, and they have over 220,000 people and 15 square miles. That city of Portsmouth is more dense than London, England. So keep those type of things in perspective. We're 33 square miles and 97,000, and we see each other a couple of times a day in and out of the store and the barber shop. So imagine what they're doing in Portsmouth, England. So with that, Councilwoman Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of items of general interest. Coming up this weekend is a fabulous free activity for the very first time. The U.S. Coast Guard BARQ, B-A-R-Q-U-E, that's a three-masted sailing ship, in case you don't know that term, is coming to Portsmouth. You know, Portsmouth is a Coast Guard city as enacted by the U.S. Congress. And so the Coast Guard Eagle will be sailing down the Elizabeth River into Portsmouth this Friday, September 13th. She'll dock at the foot of High Street at High Street Landing. She will be open to the public for free tours all weekend, Friday from 1 o'clock until 5 p.m., all day Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 o'clock at night, and on Sunday from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. A marvelous time to go take a tour, take your kids and your grandchildren. She is 295 feet long. She is the only three-masted steel sailing ship in the U.S. military service. She is a spoil of war from the Second World War. She was built in 1936, and we took her from the Germans in 1946, and she's been sailing for the U.S. military ever since. She always has a crew of 6 officers and 52 enlisted, so when you go on board, welcome those enlisted men and women to Portsmouth. When they sail out Sunday, they'll have a new cadet crew. The following weekend, September 21st, on Saturday, the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame is going to be open to residents of Portsmouth for free all day. So if you go in with your driver's license or something that shows you live in the city, you can enjoy the Sports Hall of Fame for free all day on Saturday, September 21st. So look forward to seeing everybody downtown.
And if that's not, okay, Councilman Moody, go ahead.
I'll yield, Mayor. If you
No,
have
sir,
something
go
else.
ahead. I was going to talk about our new initiative of coffee talk with our manager coming up on the 12th, but I'll wait and yield to you because I'm sure the manager is excited about the citizens coming, telling them all the great things about our city. So go ahead, sir.
Good way to start the day with coffee. So we got the Eagle, instead of landing, is going to be docking. The mayor said he went to Rhode Island, the chickens. You know, Rhode Island has a species of chicken called Rhode Island Reds, believe it or not. Anyway, that's the trivia for tonight. I had the opportunity to go to the Community Day rally for the Community Recreation Center out at the old Truxton school site Saturday. Beautiful weather, well attended, although I got there early. I did get there in time to see the Norcom Band march. I saw some good food being prepared. It looked like it was a lot of it. I understand later we even had Congressman Bobby Scott made a speech. I think the mayor was out there and made a speech. Which brings me to the fact, the reason for the rally was they're looking to this council to do something regarding the Parks and Rec and Leisure Services Master Plan that we've had in our hands since 2012. In fact, I think since June of 2012, 13 months prior to the plan being adopted, there was a civic engagement process that was quite extensive. Had 4 long days of charrettes. I think 2 were during the weekdays, during the evenings. 2 were on the weekends, and they were held in various places in our city. And also there were stakeholder meetings with Civic League presidents, with Youth League presidents, the Park and Rec Commission. There were also public hearings before that plan was adopted. And in that plan, in fact, Mayor, the Healthy Initiative was part of that plan that I think the goal was to make Portsmouth one of the healthiest cities, if not in the region, in the nation. And of course, recreation is a big part of that, have not only for children, but for seniors and adults of all ages. So the folks out there probably, instead of listening to the speeches, they were wanting to see some action of some sort and have been wanting to see some action for a number of months. That plan, by the way, is still on our website. If you go to portsmouthva.gov and click on Parks and Recreation, that study is right there. It makes for good reading. It makes some specific recommendations. It's not a generalized study at all. And yes, it did cost money like most studies. Unfortunately, we have way too many studies as a city that are sitting on a shelf somewhere gathering dust. This particular one cost, I think, $68,000. I misspoke a few meetings ago, said 70, and somebody reminded me that the price must be going up. The price is probably going up with studies, believe me. In addition to that, there was 600 mail-outs, or actually 600 respondents from the mail-outs that we did throughout the city. And then there were also 3,000 hits on the survey on our website at the time, so that's pretty substantial. So the folks in this audience, the folks at home, the children that we always speak of, because they are the future of our city, as Councilwoman Randall is always reminding us, being the teacher and the principal and the educator that she has been for a number of years. So they look to this council to do something, and you know, no decision is the wrong decision, because all the recommendations become more costly as time goes by, and people get frustrated and want to turn a good thing, they want to turn it into a political thing. It's not a political thing. You look for us to make choices, and tonight I think it's time to not let that study get any more dusty. I think it's time to task management to include the recommendations of that study in the 2014-2015 budget that they'll be working on very shortly. So tonight, I move to direct staff as part of the 2014-2015 budget process to include a plan for implementing the recommendations of the master plan study.
Let me just say, Councilman Moody, that study that we commissioned was not a study to make a decision to roll out a plan for us to follow. It was a study to give us data and input on the condition of our facilities, where our schools were located in relationship to our parks and to our recreation centers, skateboards, playgrounds, and all of those things. One of the concerns that I had, and I think some of us had, is that we would all have a study to be able to take the information out of the study and use it for the point of view that we wanted to try to put across. At the end of the day, the study was done in commission to be able to give us that feedback that we wanted, but not to make a decision for us. It is still our decision on council to decide what we want to do in the arena of recreation, community centers, dog parks, and all of those other things, even though there were some guidelines. So it is still our job as the deciders to be able to look throughout our community and see what we can afford, how much we can afford, where's the biggest bang for the buck, how soon do we activate that and move. So I concur with you that we need to take action. There needs to be action, but we need to make sure that we have done a thorough review of what we're trying to do and not lean on a piece of information that was given to us to help us make that decision. It was not there to make the decision. So I don't want anybody here to think because we have invoked the name of that study often, that study still does not do what we need to do as the council. And I think we all understand most of the things in our city and most cities that are challenged budgetary-wise, it comes down to how many and where and in what neighborhood. And that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's why we were elected to make those decisions. So there's nothing in a study or anything that the manager or anybody else on staff is going to pull out there that we aren't going to question and turn into a major food fight. So in order to prevent that, let's do the hard work we need to do and use the information from the study to be able to move forward.
Mayor, I concur with you, but it's up to staff to come back to this council with the very things that you just mentioned, and that study gives them the basis to do that. There's some specific recommendations, some areas that were identified by citizens, by the people who served on the Planning Commission, the Recreation Commission, citizens who were involved, and that study is very detailed. And that study is the basis for staff to come back with a plan for this council to deliberate and for the public to have input on, and to keep people amped up, wondering when we're going to do something. Well, we had the basis to task staff to do that very thing, do the very things that you're mentioning.
Absolutely.
But to sit here idle and let this thing keep festering and have folks have to spend their summertime evening to come here and remind council that we're not doing our job is not good. So I stick by my motion, and
Absolutely.
I ask for a second.
And I agree. Hold it.
We have a second.
We have a, Madam Clerk.
Council members, just for clarification, we're noting Councilman Moody's motion, but first there needs to be a motion to add an item to your agenda for you all to consider his motion. You can't just arbitrarily adopt any motion that's thrown on the floor.
So moved.
So,
Second.
okay. So we have a motion and a second to add an item to the agenda, which is pertaining to this Parks and Recreation Plan. And it was seconded by Councilman Cherry. Okay, and we need a vote on that. If you will please vote electronically on that item, please. Okay, fine. What we're doing now is adding the item to the agenda to allow you the ability to speak on it as an item. This is only to add it to the agenda. Okay, we're coming back to you, if it makes it that far. Okay, so we're voting electronically to add an item to your agenda for consideration, and you're voting electronically.
I'm not clear. Can you go over that one more
I sure
time?
can, sir. Councilman Moody is making a motion to direct staff as part of the 2014-15 budget process to include the plan implementing the recommendations of the master plan study. In order for you all to decide on that factor, you have to add an item to the agenda to be able to consider that motion. You can't consider that motion without adding it to your agenda because it's not on your scheduled agenda. So the purpose of this motion we're speaking on right now is just to add an item to your agenda. It is not on the actual item itself.
And it's just to discuss the item. It is not an approval, it's just
Well,
to discuss
What
it.
you're doing is adding the item to your, being able to add an item to your agenda, then you're going to consider the motion. So you will be voting on something if there's a second, and it sounds like there is. So there will be something happening here.
And discussion and unreadiness.
Yes.
Okay.
Discussion
we're
and
voting to
readiness, and we will
discuss.
open it to the floor for speakers.
Okay.
Okay? So at this time, you're voting electronically to add an item to your agenda.
Then vote. Okay.
Okay, but by 5-2, this item has been added to the agenda for discussion. Mr. Moody is going to restate his motion so that we can get for the record a second, if there is one.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I move to direct staff as part of the 2014-2015 budget process to include a plan for implementing the recommendations of the master plan study.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second to add, well, we have the motion and we have a second. At this time, there's
Yes.
discussion by council, and
Yes.
then we'll open it up to the floor for the
Very good.
citizens.
I would like to amend that motion to have the manager and staff to use that study as well as the other factors that we need in this city to consider what and how to do with facilities, whether it is to renovate them, whether it is to build one, or what. And those factors should include socioeconomics. Those factors should include the density, the number of kids, and the population as to where nearest facilities are. Some of those things are covered in the study. The socioeconomics are not covered in the study. And the biggest bang for the buck. And that bang for the buck definition, and I know this is a long amendment, deals with collaboration with our education, with our police department and sheriff's department to determine what we as a city should be talking on.
Yeah, I third it. Because those things are contained in the study. I agree with that, Mayor.
Okay, all right. Now,
good with
Councilwoman Simmons.
Thank you, sir. I think you kind of said a lot of what I wanted to say.
Okay.
But I think the reason I want to second and third what both of you gentlemen are saying is, we need, if the manager and staff, we have probably, no, let me rephrase this. We have some very talented people in our Parks and Recreation Department right now, probably better staff than we've ever been in a long time. We have the two ladies that are managing our department, if you don't know it, are part of the team that built the very fancy recreation centers in Virginia Beach that have recently opened. So we've got some real experts on our team, and we need to use their expertise in conjunction with this inevitable study that was completed a year ago with new information that's come about, like the Noble Street Church situation, our collaboration with schools and all that, to say, this is how we do this and this is what it costs. I hope that Mr. Rowe and his team can come back and say, this is the Cadillac version, if we can afford it. Here's the Buick version, and here's the Chevrolet version. And council, now it is your choice to make where you choose to spend our tax money.
Well stated. Okay, Dr. Edmonds.
Well, I just feel like that we didn't come up with this in a clear and precise way. It seems as though that we were anticipating certain things, and we make this item known now without really having clarification on it. I feel like that we have people here to speak on this, and we need to take all those things into consideration as well, rather than just voting on something to try to pacify folk that will come here and say something.
Mr. Moody, you have anything else to add? Just so your light on. Okay.
No, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, very good. Okay, Councilwoman Randall. Hit your button.
I'd just like to say, I would hope that we can come together and look at something in a very comprehensive manner when it comes to providing activities and needs for the residents in the city. I've been through and I've seen a lot of things that was done that did not bring about a solution for handling the needs of our young people in our communities. And I think to have lived in the community and watched what has gone on in our community through the years, I don't think we need to just jump on something there when it is not going to take care of the needs of the community. And it may only stir up a little more uneasiness. All of these areas need recreations for our children. But I think we need to put our best foot forward and make sure not only we're serving the needs of the children, but we're listening to the desires of the people who are working in these communities and making certain requests. We may feel as if we know the answers, but until you've talked to the people out in the fields, and I'm looking out some of them that are out in the audience, who have some desires and dreams and aspirations for their neighborhoods, I think we need to get that input. These are the citizens who are paying the taxes in our city. They know what they want for our children. They know what things are offered as a result in our schools. I've been in the schools, so I know what's out there. I've also been out in the community with the recreation areas. And there are some imbalances, and I say it publicly, in what is put out in some of our communities. We need to make sure if we're going to make some changes, let's make it for the best for all children that are coming up in our city. And until I feel that, and the plan that I'm hearing before me there will not address the needs of the majority of our children. And I work very, very closely with Parks and Recreation. So as a result, I will not vote for the plan. We've had plans out all the time, and we did not follow through with what was best for the children.
Let me just say and address your concern as well as Dr. Edmonds, in that it is a proper way to do this, to give us all an opportunity to make this a part of the agenda for the next meeting so we can go forward. But I am so sick and tired of being delayed and sidetracked with bad politics that if they want to have this fight tonight, the mayor's ready, okay? Because we need to resolve this matter, and we need to stop hiding behind studies and blue ribbon commissions and all of those other things. So as long as the manager and the staff are going to factor in all of those components, then I'm ready to vote on that tonight, because it is high time, okay? So I do appreciate what Councilwoman Randall and Dr. Edmonds said, because this is not the way to run a barbershop.
It's not.
Popping up, reading something, throwing it on the agenda, and everybody voting, that implies that they didn't got together before the meeting, right?
Something.
But that's okay. We're ready to have this. So I'm in favor of this motion. Okay?
Right.
Madam Clerk.
I call for the motion.
Second.
Turn my light off.
Just press.
Okay, good.
No, she voted. Needs a reset.
Where's your vote?
Reset, Ms. Randalls.
Yeah. Just turn it off. Is it on?
And we need to have a discussion here before we vote.
We're just.
Okay, we got it, we got it. We're not going to vote until we have
Give us a
comments.
second, we're not voting, okay? At this time, because we have an item added to City Council's agenda and a motion before council to be considered, we will open the floor to speakers. Please come forward one at a time, give your name and address, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak on this item.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman. My name is James Overton, 315 Astor Avenue. And you know how hard it is to sit back here and watch y'all guys go through this right now when we have come here to speak on this matter? I think my battery has gone down. But anyway, give us the time to come up and talk to you. You might hear something that sways your mind or runs us in a different direction. To start doing this before we get a chance to have our open dialogue with you, I think is appalling. So what I'm going to ask for you to do, and I don't know where you are with the motion or whatever, to rescind that until after you get a chance to hear from the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Chester Benton, and I'm the president of the Historical Trust and Civic League. For many of you who are on the council, you know about the passion that our community have for the Civic League to have a recreation center. A lot of you have been to many of our events. A lot of you, before you were elected, when you were running for election, you came to us, we showed you our plan. We showed you that we are a proud community and that we need this type of facility. A lot of you agreed with us at that particular time. And over the years, I've seen you change your mind because you're allowing politics to get involved in this. Yeah, you had a lot of studies, but you haven't come to us to sit down and listen to the people in our community. This is not a plan that, I've been working on this plan for 6 years, but this is a plan that's been in the process for 20 years. There have been designs, there have been studies. And as we walk up and down our streets and we see these kids with nowhere to go, no place to play. I was riding Saturday morning and I saw some ladies from one of the churches in the neighborhood. We don't have a track. They were walking all around through the neighborhoods. These are ladies in their 50s and their 60s that had to walk all the way down to Noble Street, back down through Ballantyne Place, back around to their church because there's no track. It's not just for the kids, it's also for the seniors. What I would like to ask of you is to stop playing politics. Stop coming up with all of these plans pitting neighborhood against neighborhood and race against race, trying to say, well, Park Place don't have a recreation center. We need to rebuild a recreation center at Cavalier Manor. All I ask of you is come to our Civic League meetings, listen to us, listen to the passion that we have for this. We've been working on this for 20 years, and I promise you one thing, we're not going to stop. We're not going to give up. Whether it's this council or the next council or the next council or the next study, we're going to keep on fighting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor. I'm Elvira Johnson with Wilson Ward. I am the president of the league. As Mr. Benton just stated, we have been fighting for years for this rec center. And for this council to try to blindside us before we got a chance to speak tonight, that's wrong. That's really wrong. Mr. Moody was out there, Ms. Simmons was out there, Danny Meeks came out there Saturday. They saw these children out here working hard for something that they are very passionate about. Somebody told me Saturday, Elvira, you mighty passionate about something. This must be a driven purpose, and it is. Not just for me, for our senior citizens, our seasoned seniors, and our children. You saw the children come up. They were happy. They had something to do. They had something to do that day right there. Had we had our multicultural center, we, the parents, would have been right there with our children inside that multicultural center, because I'm sure it's going to offer a whole lot more than just a basketball court. Our children need more. They need stimulation. And we can get it right there. And it's the ideal location, because it serves not just Truxton. I hear that all the time. It's not just Truxton. It's about all our children. And all our children don't live in Truxton. So we're going to ask you again, hear us. Read your studies. I got the study. I'm going to read it too. But it's about time to stop playing politics and give us what is needed in this city. And we are way overdue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Good evening. My name is Sean Burton. I've been a resident of Portsmouth for 33 years in that location, in that area, the surrounding area of that rec center. And out of the 33 years I've been here, I've seen no new development, period, within a 1.5 mile radius of that rec center. This is not only a dream of mine, but my neighborhood, from Dale's Home to Lincoln Park, Prentice Park, Brighton, Charleston, Arcadia Heights. I'm out there in the neighborhoods. I'm one of the people that threw the rally this weekend, so I'm out there talking to the residents of all the neighborhoods. This is not only a dream of mine, this is a dream of all of theirs. I'm talking to citizens 88 years old. Oh, that's what you're working on? That's wonderful. I envisioned that 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I'm envisioning it. My kids envision it. How y'all not listening to the citizens? Y'all come up here telling us what y'all want us to hear. We don't want to hear that crap. We want this. This is something that we want. We don't care. We care about y'all little visions and stuff like that, but we want our stuff out here. Y'all not listening. I don't understand this. And that's what I came down here today to tell y'all. Listen to the citizens. We put y'all in office, and we can take y'all out. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Wright and City Council and City Manager, Mr. Rowe. My name is Erin Carter, and I reside at 5222 Forestdale Drive in the Churchland area of the city. And I'm going to just say one quick thing. You might say, she's from Churchland. Why is she fighting for this? I came across this, the old Truxton plan from 1979, where the council approved in their capital improvement budget to give a recreational and community center in that exact same location that Miss Lucy Overton fought for, Mr. James Brown, who his daughters are sitting, Joseph Brown, are sitting here. But this is something that came from the Office of Planning, and they have been working on this for almost 40 plus years, and it still has not happened yet. So my question to you tonight, when is it going to happen? When are you going to actually put the community center in that place that people have died, but this still was their dream, their passion, and it still has not happened yet? How long is it going to take? When are you going to hear the citizens' needs? Are we just going to go off that plan? What about this plan? We have a plan too. This is what the city of Portsmouth did in 1979, approved for the budget. I'm just asking you to please go pick up a copy of this, and you will find that it was approved. Never built, but it was approved by council. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Barry Randall. I am here tonight. Most people don't really know me. I'm more behind the scenes guy, 35 years resident here in Portsmouth, Virginia. This situation I took to heart because I am a pastor, have been pastoring now 16 years. I am also a consecrated bishop in an organization headquarters on the Eastern Shore. This speaks to my heart because my father, the late Barry Reginald Jones, I'm not proud to say this, but one thing I've understand that you cannot change history. My father was a drug dealer, but he was also very athletic. He was very good with basketball, very good with football at Woodrow Wilson High School. Problem is he didn't have options. These community centers that we need to build, this community center rather, will offer options. The community centers that we already have in place, you go there, some days they have open gym, some days they don't because they have rented it out to different persons. And the sad thing is all of our children are not inclined to play basketball. If we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder to our neighboring cities, we need to make sure that we have things in place such as aerobics. We should not have to go to social services just to do Zumba. We should have our own community center in place to where we can go and have Zumba, where we can do other types of things. And as a matter of fact, it did my heart proud to see that young man, Mr. Carter, come here. But I want to say we need to produce our own Carters. We need to have our own Carters out of our own communities. And if we give these young people options, then guess what? We will have them. I have people by the name of Mr. John Hatchett, Miss Diane Chappelle, Mr. Donnell Parham, who was very instrumental in my life. The fact that my father was killed behind not having options and being a drug dealer, my father had the opportunity to go away and play college basketball, football, and he was brought back. Many of you all may have read about this. My father was killed where the new jail site is, and his body was left there to badly decompose. I made God a vow that I would not go in the same direction as my father. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. But I'm smart enough to know that there's no goodness of my own, but it was because I had people like Mr. Hatchett at the Wesley Community Center that was very influential in my life. Also, Bishop Edmonds' wife, who was my teacher. She was my English teacher, I believe. Not only did she take time out of her busy schedule in school, but she had a family member that lived in Washington Park. She would come and help us at home, my sisters and I. We need people in the community to reach out to our children. And for the record, church is not the answer. It is not that. God is the sole answer, but church is not the answer. We have over 200 churches in Portsmouth, and I will be the first to tell you, going to church does not make you good. A touch from God and a touch from our community leaders is what makes a person good. And all the people in the audience, I don't mean any disrespect to Noble Street Baptist Church. If you all want to partner with them, by all means, that's fine. But that is not the solution. We need a newly built rec center in the south side area of Virginia. Because when you build or partner with a church, I like to be a fair person. It says to the community in whole that Portsmouth is a Christian city. I have a problem with that because if my son came home and said that he went to a mosque that had a rec center and came home and tried to teach me something about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, I will have an issue with that situation because my child needs to know what I have instilled into them. And what I'm saying to you all, if we just partner with a church and not make it affordable for everybody to come, then you will exclude certain children, such as those who are Jehovah's Witnesses that cannot enter a church. So what are we saying to those families? That Portsmouth is a Christian community? No. Portsmouth should not be looked at as just a Christian community, a Jewish community, an Islamic community. But Portsmouth should be looked at as a community by, of, and for all people. We need a community center that will be welcoming for all of our people. And if there's a study to really be looked at, then you need to go and study those detectives that are out there kicking down doors. You need to study the crime tape of all these murders that we're having in this little old city that when you watch the weather report, they don't even put Portsmouth on the map. But yet and still, the word on the street is, if you want to commit a murder, do it in Portsmouth because you can get away with it. I'm not proud of that statement. So I'm saying to you all, please do not judge all of this based upon your own faith and your vocation. Don't let it cloud your judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Kentrell Devin, and I reside in Newport. As you all know, I was the one who suggested to partner with the churches and use facilities that are there. My grandfather taught me one monkey doesn't stop a show, but I found out a multiple of monkeys can sure bring a disturbance. And that's what I feel like is going on with our children. And we're trying to play against each other. I think the best prayer that was said tonight was when Bishop Edmonds said, compromise. I'm sitting amongst adults who do not want to compromise. If we are going to advance our children, then let's consider everything. I keep hearing this terminology, priorities, where I feel like priorities, everything should be put on the table. Not just the rec center, because my sons would tell me, Mama, our priority is going to King's Dominion. Our priority is going to Great Wolf Lodge. But as a mother and as the manager of my household, I have to factor in other priorities, which would be making sure there's a roof over our head, the lights are on, gas, water, and then transportation. And then I factor in their priorities. So yes, we understand that there's a void for recreation. But has anyone taken the time to look at our libraries? Has anyone put education first? While we're fighting over a recreation center, they are building jails off of our children based on their failing rate by the time they exit in 3rd grade. Are we telling parents and grandparents that before you vote to spend our money as a whole, do not do that without considering education? Because the jail industry is blowing up off of our young people, and we're fighting in here over recreation. But there is a compromise, because Cuffy Recreation Facility over in South Norfolk, which is a very, very bad location, if we're going to factor in everything like they was doing as far as socioeconomics and the crime rate, that's a terrorist area for Chesapeake. They did both. They recognized the need for education, so they built the library. The library is on the 2nd floor. Excellent library. The 1st floor is where they have a recreation center. Portsmouth Library, which I'm going to speak on again, I need an extra 5 minutes, but you all threw a monkey up in here tonight that I was like, just help me. Because I cannot believe this. Mr. Moody, you know, that was just, we're going to spend this money, let's spend this money. That wasn't professional, wasn't at all. But we'll let that slide tonight. Since we're going to deal with it, let's deal. Woodrow Wilson has a public library in the school where my twins go, and I pray over them that the Lord would take them there, keep them safe until they come home, like many other parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. Do you all know you only have a plastic partition wall that separates a public location from people entering a high school? See, priorities, until you get out there and see what's going on, you don't know. So you fighting over mediocre ideas and goofy arguments. Safety should be first. Education should rank right next door to safety. So why not compromise? Okay, we know Churchland needs a recreation facility. I lived out there, granted, that is true. When I was out there, there was anything. Get your programs out of our elementary schools. You built them, you put these gyms in them, open them up to the people. Stop playing games. Crowd Library, I'm sure it's full of asbestos. But we'll just go, we don't care about education. And put that on the agenda. I plan to be there with you, to meet with you, because who has considered giving us a library? These libraries was built in 1970, if not before then. Do we really care? When are we going to tell the people, again, I want to use my last seconds to say, they are choosing to build prisons and a bed by the time your child or your grandchild is exiting the 3rd grade. Think about it, do the math, consider it, and then figure out where to spend my money. Good night.
Mayor, Council, my name is Randy Hargrave, and I live in the city of Portsmouth, and also I am a member of Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church on the corner of 3310 Deep Creek Boulevard in the Portsmouth, Virginia area, just across from the area that proposal for the Truxton Recreation Center. I came to Portsmouth in 1961, so I've been here roughly over 50 years, and I've lived in the area. And when I first came here, my family and I moved at 54 Hobson Street, okay, in this lovely city of Portsmouth in the Truxton area. Now, I stand before you to represent our church. I call my pastor, Pastor E.T. Knight. A lot of you know him because of his Victory in Jesus ministry that we have. Now, within that particular situation, We have 458 active members at Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church. We would like to have, you go back to Sister Lucy Overton, was a member of our church, Brother Duke, all these individuals. Our recreation center would be a tremendous advantage, and let me explain why very quickly. Over the last 10 to 15 years, we do spiritual surveys. We walk in Truxton, Prentice Park, Douglas Park, Craddock, Howland, Biltmore. And we ask them, how can we be relevant to them in our neighborhood? These surveys, believe it or not, we've probably done over 1,000. That's not a good sample size. However, 90% of them say, we need some place for our kids. We need some place for our youth, okay? Now, this is an unofficial survey. And I'm just saying to you, and the bishop probably spoke a little bit more eloquently than I could have spoken on this. But the bottom line, people, when you look at the early childhood initiative that we have in this country right now by the United States, okay, this would be right in hand with that. And I know we are strapped for cash, amen? But at the same time, let us look to our young people. And I asked for you, Mr. Moody, I saw you there this past Saturday, Ms. Simmons and Kenneth and a lot of city council people there at the community festival. There were probably about a good 250 people there, okay? But when you look at one little kid and that person says, thank you, Bobby Scott, thank you, individuals, for helping me, because I could have been on drugs if I didn't have a mentor, if I didn't have leadership. And as the bishop said a few minutes ago, yes, we churches, we're in the vineyard, we're to be the salt of the earth, but just don't leave it to the churches, okay? So if you can, look upon yourself to help the Truxton community, the Douglas Park community, Howland Biltmore community, Truxton community, all over, so that we can have a better neighborhood, keep our kids off of drugs, help us to be better husbands, better wives, and so we can live together in this great city. And I hope that makes sense. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, members. Wow. My name is Chris Williams. I reside 1441 Welcome Road, Lake Forest, Cabin Mountain area. Wow. I came down tonight really to kind of give a few suggestions, not to debate the rec center, where it should be built, or should it be built, or should not it be built. And my heart goes out to the people of Truxton. Really, it does. I grew up in College Park on County Street, Midtown. And we have always had somewhere to go. We had that little basketball court right across from Kenny Wright's mother's house. And it's always been a real productive basketball court. I don't really think you can ever record a crime being done at that basketball court. And I'm proud to say that it was that basketball court that really helped me to mature. It really helped me to grow. I'm kind of rambling because it's, you know, I want to say some things, but you got to be real careful sometimes because people can be real vindictive. Mr. Moody, I look at you a lot on TV, sir, and out of due respect, I will always respect the office of a city councilman. I will always respect the office of an official. And I really try to remain open-minded. I really do. I really when it comes to, your delivery and some of the things that you say. But my background, I stopped playing basketball and I went to the left. And so I had the privilege of, being on the corners and watching the guys play dice and learning how to play dice from looking over their shoulders. And I've had the privilege of going into some houses where some under the table dealings was taking place. And, when I look at the city council sometimes, I think I'm in some of those rooms. Really. Because of my makeup and because of my expertise when it comes to dirty business, I'm that guy. I'm literally speaking because I'm not there anymore by the grace of God. I've been able to, change my way of thinking and change my way of dealing. But when I be at home and really look at the city council, I'm like, they right at the line of criminal behavior. Seriously, with some of the things, some of the ways and some of the things that y'all come about with things just like tonight, I'm like, wow. That's what we used to do in the back room. And it's just, it just kind of, it amazes me how you really think that we are blind and we can't really see what's happening and what you're doing and what your agenda is, and I can almost see who's pushing you. Literally. I can see who's pushing you. And it's just, it's just sad that we can go out Swanson Home, we can go out Lincoln Park, we can go out police everywhere. But then you look behind Lincoln Park Center and the basketball goals ain't even there. You look behind Swanson, but you see police everywhere. And I'm not saying that police is not needed, but you got to give kids a choice whether to have a basketball or the gangbang, whether to have a football or to sell drugs. You got to give them a choice. In the inner city, I don't denounce Churchland. I don't denounce the other parts of the city. But if you go out Churchland, you got basketball goals, you got tennis arenas. I mean, I'm talking about all over the place. And then you got lights. Literally, you got lights. You can barely find a light on any basketball court downtown Portsmouth.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow citizens. I'm Mark Gadulda-Yatrovsky of 2713 Sterling Point Drive in the great city of Portsmouth. I want to thank the city clerk for lassoing the stray steers behind the dais and calling you back to procedure. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to give you the unsolicited benefit of some parliamentary experience that I've had. According to Robert's rules, the presiding officer does not make motions, including motions to amend. So under Robert's rules, your amendment would be out of order. The other problem with the amendment, and of course, this is just my point of view, based on my understanding, I have no official standing in terms of your procedures. The other issue is any amendment needs to be something that can be stated in one breath. And so the opening sentence of Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities really does not make a good amendment. Your colleagues need to be able to understand what it embodies. It should be clear and concise. And the city clerk should not have to make her fingers smoke to try to get it all down. With that said, I want to point out for the record this fact. Councilmember Moody has to stand for re-election in 2014. I'm not going to say that his motion was politically motivated, but he is looking at the calendar, I am sure, at this point in time, and trying to ingratiate himself with as many voters in this city as he can. He's not ingratiating himself with me. The first speaker, the gentleman speaking from Old Truxton, was dead on, as was Councilmember Edmonds. This is not the way you do the people's business. You listen to the people who were signed up. Mr. Moody knew that they were all signed up. As Mr. Williams said in his own fashion, far more eloquently than I'm capable of expressing it, that was an end run. It was an attempt to prevent those citizens who had signed up and were prepared to give their well-considered remarks and airing in this chamber to cut them out of the process. I hope the council will take Councilmember Edmonds' advice, put this on a back burner, bring a fully considered motion here so that it is on the agenda in time for the public to see that it is coming before you, and give everybody a chance to weigh in a considered fashion rather than flying by the seat of our pants as we are now. Thank you very much.
Let me, Mark, Mr. Utrowski, if you come back up, let me just first clarify that you're absolutely correct with Robert Rules of the Order, and the reason I did that was to throw the whole thing out of order, because this whole thing is out of order. It is obvious that these four came in here with a plan, okay, to throw the whole thing out of order. So Bishop is absolutely correct, but if we're going to go forward, I wanted to go forward on the record with being out of order. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Godaldik-Yatrovsky. To begin with, we're not voting on a recreation center tonight. My motion requested that staff come back with details of a plan. That study contains much more information, and I'm sure you've probably read it. It's very detailed. It offers a lot of suggestions. I'd be the first to sit here tonight and tell you we can't afford everything that study recommends. And you also know, as I know, that council doesn't come up and design recreation facilities. Staff, they're the ones that put together plans based on research, in this case based on study and based on civic engagement. The only thing this motion does is say, let's come back with a plan that allow us to begin implementing this study. And at that time, as you also are well aware, then the conversation and the discussion and the public hearings can begin. And until then, we're just having rallies and having people come here saying they want a recreation facility. We're not saying no to anybody tonight. We're saying, manager, staff, come back with a plan for us to deliberate, to discuss, to get input with. Not $1 is being spent tonight. And this thing has been politicized long enough. I'm not looking at the calendar. I'm looking at the people that come here in the audience and the people that putting in their valuable time saying, why don't y'all do something? Well, we can't do anything until staff is tasked to come back with a plan for us to deliberate. So, thanks for your comments.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Meeks.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been on council now for right at 9 months. Study. I don't have nothing for you, Mark. You can sit down. No reason to comment. And we do need a place for our children to go. And you know, like I think one of the pastors in the back was saying, you know, church and Jehovah's Witness, and we understand that too. But it goes all the way back to a strong financial base. We have to make sure we have the debt service. We got to make sure the money's there so we don't have gymnasiums and rec centers like we have now, like the JFK, Cavalier Manor. And we have to make sure the upkeep of the buildings are in our budget. And tonight, basically, we have to get started somewhere. I know the mayor thinks he's been blindsided, probably like some of y'all, but that's not the case. The case is we have to go forward. And you hear us back and forth week after week, hey, I want this, hey, I want that. But we have a study. And we're not saying we're going with everything in that study, but we have to have a starting point. And we got to figure out what this stuff costs. So then we can come back and share it on television and say, hey, look, it's $5 million. It's going to take $750,000 a year to maintain the building. In 10 years, it's going to cost you another $7.5 million. Where are we coming up with that money? You don't want us to raise taxes, so we have to be creative. But we have to give direction to our manager to start somewhere. And that's what we did tonight. We didn't say, well, we were going to build one here and not there. We didn't say we were going to remodel this one and not that one. But we're saying, hey, put it in our budget for next year, so when all y'all come up here to fight and fuss, we have a plan that we gave our manager direction. That's all we said. And I know, hey, we had 5, 6, 7 people here about the recreations, and then we probably had, we had 250 at that thing, Aaron, something like that? 500 people? All right, but it was a lot of people. And I stayed out there. I got there at 2. I didn't leave till 6 o'clock. And everybody came up to me and said, hey, why ain't you for it? Why ain't you for it? I stayed there, stayed fast. I said, it's all about finances. We have to have the finances. What, you want us to promise you something, build it, and then charge you like we do at the splash parks? No. I'm not going to be a part of that. You want to get mad at me? You get mad at me. When I found out we were charging the splash park, I went to the manager, I went to my colleagues, said, why are we charging our kids? The use of that splash park has doubled. All right? I know a lot of people in Truxton, Prentice Park, Dales Homes, Craddock, Howland, Biltmore, wherever. I know a lot of people. I played sports with them. But it goes back to finances. We have to make sure we have the finances in place to build anything. So we don't have what is happening now with our rec centers. We have to have somewhere for our kids to go. The reason we went to Noble, just for a quick fix, or, hey, let's open our doors like the lady said to the schools. That's perfect. Those buildings are safe. Hey, they got rules. You can't have stuff within 500 feet of that schools, drugs or anything. They're safe. We already have them. You know? I mean, that's the quick fix. Even if we approved the plan tonight for a rec center, it will still be a year and a half. So tonight's not going to be the answer, but we can give our manager directions to go, hey, start something, give us something. It takes 4 of us. But you know what? It's not one person up here wants to be the odd man out. We always want to be 7. Always. We fight and bicker back and forth, but everybody up here is passionate about the city, one way or the other. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Meeks. Let me just say, finances is extremely important in anything we do, but most important is priorities. And the reason why these facilities that we have now are like they are is because of our priorities. Right. And everything we do is going to be based on priorities. And to go task the manager to do something without all of the full details, for him to then come back and say, I think this is what you asked me to do, and all of those types of things are wrong. It needs to be written down, all of the components of what we tasked him to do, so he can be evaluated on those things at the proper time. We too often say, go do that. That's a real good way of council getting out of it. We'll give it to the manager. And then he sits with his folks and try to figure out what he think is best, and then come back and try to tell us what he thought he heard us say it. And then we're back here next year doing the exact same thing that we're doing. So the whole purpose of that was to put this in detail, bulletize all of the components that we want used, and not reference one thing or the other, and make sure when we do that, we check all of those boxes off before we decide. And so, again, as Bishop Edmonds said, or Councilman Edmonds said, this was not a way to rush into doing this without doing all those things in an orderly fashion. Well, I have been here 3 years, and I'm sick and tired of the delay. I'm sick and tired of the maneuvers. You're right, election time coming up. Everybody wants to get something to run on. Prior to the election, I think one of you said they came out there and everybody agreed with it. And all of a sudden, they don't agree with it. We've got to stop that business. We're here to do things in best interest of this city. We have to create the place. We have people that want to help. I meet with people every day that want to start some program, want to do something. They don't have transportation, they don't have funding, they don't have a place. It is our job to create the place. We have good programs in our parks and rec. It troubles me when we have this conversation because I wonder if they think we're talking about them. But having good programs in a place that nobody wants to come to is absolutely useless. Offering free food to somewhere that nobody wants to come to is just free food going to waste. And for us to sit here and their emails going back and forth, they asked the director, how many people showed up over here? And she says, well, nobody. We had to close this program because nobody came. Well, there's a reason why nobody comes. And because you have good programs and don't have the place, it's like economic development. It's like everything else you do in the city. You have to create the place, you have to maintain it, you have to keep those things as priorities. And when you don't do that, those things will roll by the wayside, and you will go to all of these centers, and everywhere you go, there's a problem. Everywhere you go, there's something that's not there. And that's our job. That's our job as a government. That's our job as citizens to make sure we hold each other accountable and don't let politics get involved with these types of things. Now, I brought this up 3 years ago when I was elected. The compromise was to do a study. Then it sat on the shelf. No one said a word. I brought it back up, and now all of a sudden we all want to say, get the study. We need to act like leaders and make decisions based on this entire city. So I think we're all saying the same thing. I think we need to remove the politics. I think we need to write down what we want this manager and his staff to do and bring back to us, and how we engage you as citizens, and not get into this, I thought you said this, that, and the other. So again, I thank all of you for comments. Madam Clerk, are there any other comments from the floor before we move on?
I want to speak.
Okay, Councilman Meeks.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been 9 months. I done heard at least about 4 studies. I'm going to ask my body, don't bring another study to me if we're not going to use it. There's no reason to spend your money or our money. I'm heavily invested in this city, just like everybody in this room, with kids, with businesses, with everything you have and everything everybody else up here. But we have to have a starting point somewhere. To push it off another 2 weeks is going to be 2 months. All right, today's the time to vote. Let's start somewhere. And it's not nothing underhanded or whatever, but we have to find a solution to put these kids somewhere, or build something, rebuild what we have. I mean, this lady right here on the front seat, she comes week in and week out for her tennis courts to be rebuilt. We have not done nothing in 9 months. I tell her, talk to John, this and that. He reverts back to, we have a study. Are we going to rebuild, or are we going to build new? Why build new when you have to rebuild what we have? I mean, we have to rebuild what we have, and in the meantime, we can get a plan to build something new. We have places all over land, and you're talking about we have a shortage of land. I mean, you go to the JFK, behind that ball field, it's at least 15 acres. Open field. Nothing to do. And we need somewhere for the kids to go. I mean, we have, the land that we do have, we're not utilizing it properly. So, that's why I'm like, hey, we need to vote tonight to start somewhere. It's not, hey, I want this and we need to dot this. Now, we got a budget, a plan, $65,000. I promise you. They won't bring another plan. I hadn't voted for a plan, a study, and I won't vote for a study because I think we can listen to our people. We have a good staff, we have a good attorney, good manager, and I think we're us seven competent enough to listen to the people and put in what we want or what we feel that we need.
Thank you, Councilman Meeks. Madam Clerk, let's move on. Do you even know where we are?
Madam Clerk, I call for the question.
Yes, sir. Council members, at this time, needless to say, the motion by the mayor is out of order, so that motion won't carry. Before you is a motion by Councilman Moody, seconded by Councilman Meeks, to direct staff as part of the 2014-15 budget process to include a plan implementing the recommendations of the master plan study. And at this time,
could you read that again?
Sure. We have a motion and a second to direct staff as part of the 2014-15 budget process to include a plan implementing the recommendations of the master plan study. And that's the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Study.
It's only one piece. It's not.
That's the motion.
Okay, that's the motion. That's not
So
complete.
you have a motion and a second, and that is the motion that is before you at this time. And we have a speaker.
Okay. Councilwoman Simmons.
May I amend the motion?
Yes,
You may.
ma'am.
Mayor, will you help me
Can
with
you
this
say it
amendment?
slowly?
Yes. I think I can make it real simple.
Okay.
Mr. Moody's motion is to direct the manager to bring back a recommendation to implement an existing plan. My amendment is to advise on implementation of the existing plan along with new ideas for additional facilities or renovations as needed.
Second.
I'm trying to make it real simple.
I second that amendment, and most of those things, as you know, Councilwoman Simmons, are in this study.
Yeah, I mean, I even think about talking about Paradise Park, which is now come to fruition.
I think it's good that we put emphasis on.
I'm sorry to jump in here, but I really need y'all to stick to the motion right now.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Councilwoman Simmons' motion, seconded by Mr. Moody. It is amended amended motion, so we need to vote on that before we deal with the original. Just to make sure that what she has recommended is what you all want. The amended motion is adopted 4-3. Okay. And your amended motion included your motion and included Mr. Moody, so that motion stands because it passed. Correct, Mr. Attorney? Thank you very much. We're moving on to the next item.
We haven't voted on the motion. That was just the amendment.
But the amended motion encompassed the
Okay.
motion and no one objected.
Okay.
Well, we objected, but it passed, so we're moving on.
All right.
And the attorney agreed.
Okay. Madam Clerk, next item.
Okay. 13-382, report on pending items, and we have none this evening. 13-383, non-agenda speakers. Before I call the non-agenda speakers, I need to make something a little clear pertaining to council rules. Those that just spoke on the added item that was just on the agenda will not be allowed to speak a second time as a non-agenda speaker, per council rules. Okay? Our first speaker under non-agenda speakers is Ms. Cora Lee Fagan.
Good evening,
members of the council.
Please adjust the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. There, is that better?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Good evening, members of the council, and mayor, right? My name is Coralie Fagan. I just moved over here to Old Town. I have a couple of problems, things I want to address. One of them is I'm an avid bicyclist. I did 2,500 miles on my bicycle last year. And my problem is professional drivers such as bus drivers and truck drivers, they don't know the laws about bicycling. You're supposed to stay to the right-hand side and flow with the traffic. And people in cars, I can understand if you're not, if you're just a regular person, but they yell at me, they blow their horns. Yesterday, I was going up High Street. A bus followed me, bus 47, and I have the number, and I reported it to HRT. This bus, the woman blew her horn, yelled at me all the way up, because the wind was at my back, I was able to go that fast. And I kept passing her, and when I'd pass her, she'd yell at me, she'd blow her horn all the way up High Street until I got almost to Walmart. And, I mean, it's like, why should a city bus be blowing their horn at me? I'm a bicyclist. Another thing I wanted to talk about was I enjoyed the senior program over at Parker. I go there 3 days a week, and I do the dancing, I do the exercise. The problem is that there's no air conditioning, and if you're not going to have air conditioning in there, you're going to have some kind of ambulance service, because I almost passed out, and that's all I want to say about that. Another thing I'm going to say, and I'm glad to see the blue receptacles in the city. However, in our apartment building and my church, there's none. I don't know what to do with my recycling stuff, and I want to recycle. I do want to be green, but I don't have a place, and I'm wondering if the city council can give the apartment communities and the businesses blue receptacles so we can also recycle. But my main thing is that I'm concerned because it's been a problem for me because I've been pedaling since 2009, and my biggest problem is people do not know the laws about riding on your bike. You're not supposed to go on the sidewalk. It's against the law. And I appreciate the new bike paths that I see throughout the city. We need more. We need signs up to say share the road. We need more of those. That's what my main thing is, because it's unsafe. It really is, and I'm scared. But I don't want to give up biking.
No.
Anyway, this is all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Let me just ask you, that was bus 44?
No.
That was Route 44?
Route 47.
Route 47.
Bus
Okay.
the number was 2005, and it was right after 3 o'clock in the evening. And I did report it. I made a complaint to HRT. However, they have not gotten back to me about that complaint.
Well, I'm the chair of HRT, and we're going to get back to you.
Thank you so much,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor.
Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to the bus number, I'd like to ask staff, did apartment buildings get the recycling cans, and can we get this lady a can, and other apartment dwellers, I guess, in their apartment buildings?
I think she's getting ready to approach her now. Would you help her? Thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Ronnie Bachlian?
Help us out, Ronnie.
I'm sorry if I ruined your name. Can you give him to the Sergeant at Arms, please? Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Ronnie Bushelon with Farrell Insulation. We're a preferred contractor for Columbia Gas for the state of Virginia in their conservation programs. And they have a residential program, conservation program called WarmWise that we're the contractor for. Basically what it is we go out as a contractor for them to a qualifying customer. We add an R19 of insulation, which is basically 8 inches of blown fiberglass insulation into the attic to make the attic more efficient. We change shower heads and water restrictors in the kitchen and the bathroom to reduce water usage. In that program, we do all those things for the customer, and it does not cost the customer anything. Columbia Gas, as the gas company, will pay us directly. So we're just trying to make you all aware and your constituents aware that there's a program out there at no cost to the homeowner, to residents, as long as they are a Columbia Gas customer. It's a single metered, individual metered. It doesn't matter whether it's multifamily, single family, duplex, rental, individual homeowner. It does not matter as long as it's a Columbia Gas customer. They can get free insulation in their attic, low flow shower heads, low flow faucet restrictors for the kitchen, all of that at no cost. They don't have to pay anything and get reimbursed. We are paid directly by Columbia Gas. They're starting another new program for duct repair as well. They can come out if there's air conditioning duct work that needs to be repaired. We can do that as well if it qualifies, if they have a gas furnace. So we're just trying to make you aware that Columbia Gas has a great program. It's a good way to cut down costs and save people money. And with no out-of-pocket expense, it's a win-win for everybody. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys, bring that to your attention.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, and it's Warm Wise.
Warm Wise.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Mr. Steve Carroll.
Evening, Mayor, members of council and staff. Steve Carroll, 3112 River Edge Drive. I'm a real simple person, aren't I, Mrs. Simmons? We've known each other since first grade. And I respect people who are straightforward with me. And I despise being lied to and misled and jerked around with a passion. I had 7 pages of comments and facts here I was going to bring tonight. You know, I'm really, my frustration is directed in another direction. I'm not for or against the rec center. I'm here about the tolls again. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here that I got my hands on December 16th, 2010. This is what the Virginia Port Authority thinks of the city of Portsmouth. To ensure that the Virginia Port Authority's revenues are used primarily to maintain its competitiveness, the General Assembly may wish to consider the use of general fund revenues to offset costs incurred by the host localities. Translated, we want billions of dollars worth of tunnels and bridges built, and we're going to put it on the backs of the city of Portsmouth. They're going to tear our roads up, but we're going to put it on the backs of the city of Portsmouth. Johnny Joanno is probably the most prominent person who ever has tried to fight the tolls. He tried to change the 1995 Public-Private Transportation Act, and his amendment was shot down. He tried 3 times to amend ERC. It was shot down. It never even got out of committee. That's what the state of Virginia thinks about the city of Portsmouth. And this is my frustration. Mayor, I jotted down some of your comments tonight. Need to act like leaders. Sick and tired of maneuvers. Hold each other accountable. Again, 3 times, I pleaded with you, long before ERC was ever signed, summon Sean Connaughton here and make him answer questions to us publicly. I don't understand how City Council can say that they were blindsided when our local rag here says that our city manager of Norfolk and Portsmouth were notified and agreed to a toll of $2.86. That's what's in the paper. I quoted it last council meeting, Mayor, and I didn't get a response. Leaders, tired of maneuvers, hold each other accountable. At this point, it's kind of a moot point. I hope and pray that this lawsuit goes in our favor tomorrow. I hope and pray. Will it change anything? I have a feeling that they're probably going to legislate the tolls anyway, and we're still going to pay them. But to be quite honest with you, the handling of this has been amateurish. And it has not been transparent to the citizens of this city. We're the ones that have been blindsided, and I'll ask you again, Why in the world didn't you summon Sean Connaught to this city and have him answer questions? What better way to put pressure on him? Now, if it's because of the lawsuit, I don't understand that. Plaintiffs don't have anything to hide. We're plaintiffs in this lawsuit, are we not? Only defendants have something to be afraid of. Why didn't we get him here? He says that he informed the city council numerous times about the toll plan and about the circumstances. If it's not true, then force him to say that it's not true. Why? You said last week that you got rebuffed. You must have worked pretty quickly. I've got a letter here from Mr. Worley that says from March to January, in that short a period of time, you ended up with $5 million worth of shrubbery and improvements from the state, along with some other things. That's quick work. Why didn't we get him here to answer our questions? Leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Sally Wright.
Good afternoon, Councilman. I'm usually a passive citizen, and I'm actually here for the third time. And I'd like to thank you, first of all, for voting to save Willett Hall. And I'm here once again on its behalf. Before I came here tonight, I took a little time, and I don't know what it looks like now, but I did take time to comb my hair and put on some makeup and, dress what I thought was appropriately, because I know that you're going to get impressions of me by how you see me and by what I say and how prepared I am. So Friday night, we are about to celebrate our 75th season of Portsmouth Community Concerts, and I'm very excited, and I hope to see many of you there. But I live just a block away from Willett Hall, and I cruised the block yesterday, and I was very upset by what I saw. My hall will not get a stellar report from people who come to visit it. The grass has not been cut. There are lights that are out. There needs to be some power washing, all of which we talked about back in June. And these are some quick fixes. There should be some trees pruned so the lighting can be improved. My father, I know you've heard probably, I don't know if you remember or not, what my mother did was get my musical interest, but my father was a property chairman for our church. And there were three things that he taught me. He said, you have to have good air conditioning. Well, y'all do, because I'm freezing. You have to have good parking, which we do. And then you have to have that once-in-a-lifetime first appearance when you get somewhere, when you're walking down that walkway and you see the hall. So I did write an email, which I forwarded to you all. I will report that there has been somewhat of an effort to cut grass. It doesn't look like I know you would want it to look. The grass was very high and in many sections, and I know if it were my own yard, I would be fined. And I'm just quite ashamed. So I hope that you all will take the time to ride around places in our city and just see them like you might notice an outside individual, because this is a lovely city. And driving down here today, I noticed how beautiful Old Town looks, and it has beautiful flowers, and people have really planned, the aesthetics. And the aesthetics are missing in Glen Sheila right now. John Tyler looks bad. And you're talking about the children. The grass there looks poor. And so I hope that we can get this so that when we have this grand opening, we're going to have 12-member troupe for the Broadway review coming in. We'd like some power washing, some just, to make it as beautiful and as nice as you all look tonight. And I certainly hope that we can get some help with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you take your seat, let me just share, when I received your email, it disturbed me, because this is about the third time we've had conversations or complaints about the upkeep of the grass and things like that at Willard Hall. And it reminded me of a conversation that Dr. Edmonds and I had last year when Jonathan Butler was here, a national renowned artist. He actually was speaking and bringing greetings on behalf of the city because I was somewhere else and came later. And the grass was about a foot tall.
Right.
And we blew a gasket, and someone listened and went and cut it, and we continued this same bad practice. We're going to take care of that
I
grass.
hope you'll do it again.
But we're going to take care of why we have to keep getting reminded by citizens and others, so why we can't keep that grass up.
It's just a small thing, you know, it's just a small thing, but it just goes just
And
a
it
world
speaks
of
volumes about how we
We have
think of our
pride.
facilities and what we have to offer here.
The front has been cut somewhat, but it needs raking. It's just a real, you know, shoddy, I hope, unfinished job, but something had been done today. But the side where the artists themselves would come in is just full of leaves and the, you know, guttering, and so hopefully we can get it spiffed.
We're going to take care of it.
Thank you.
Ms. Simmons?
I was just going to make sure, Ms. Wright, as you know, your email went all around to all of us today. We got a full report from Deputy Manager Godfrey about what the plans were to bring it up to speed by Friday, and I wanted to be sure he got with you before you left the building so that you feel as confident as I do that the manager has this under control, and it won't happen again.
Okay. Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir. I personally went out there, and I invite you to call me at any time. That's my second invitation to you. I gave you that invitation in Kroger's, and I really mean that. So don't be a stranger.
I will do that. That's
Okay.
my new pet project.
Thank you. Dr. Edmonds?
It's okay, Mayor, it's all been said.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Our next speaker is Ms. Betty Copeland.
Well, as you can see, my daughter and I are both tall, and our teachers always wanted us to be a basketball player, but we did not go into sports. We went into music and we practiced our piano, so we want to thank you for
Good thing we don't have
supporting
any
the
rec
arts.
centers, so go ahead.
I'm
Right.
thankful you support the arts. And the Willard Hall is there. We came in May and requested that, and Willard Hall is still there. And so we are able to have these, we're having our 75th year, and we've got 5 concerts. 4 of them require a large stage. Only one is a soloist, and that's the guy, Frank D'Ambrosio, who played Phantom of the Opera. So we've got 5 wonderful concerts, and the first one will be this Friday night. So I remember I told you last time that I came to Portsmouth in 1955, and I joined the community concert then, and I've been going for 55 years, and I don't think I've missed any. And I started her when she was 5 years old, and I thought I'd have to take her home at intermission, but I never did. And you see, she's ended up a musician. She's teaching over at Old Dominion, and she followed that path. So what we want to do, the first concert is back on Broadway, and there'll be 20 people in that. 12? I thought it went, no, 10, I thought it was 10. And then the next one was, and this one, Circus Zumba. I'm from Zunai, so I remember. That's from Africa. There'll be 20, I think, in that. And then we have a solo. And Sally went to East Carolina, and they're coming in here especially for that. And it's 40 singers. And then we have the Tidewater Concert Band. And so what we want to do is to recognize you and get you there to see what's going on. So our president said for me to say this, that there'll be complimentary tickets for each of you at the box office. And so we hope you can come Friday night, and we'll look for you. And we'll be so thrilled to see you there. And Mayor Wright, I'd love to see your daughters there. I feel like they would love it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, very much. And congratulations and good luck with this season. And we'll certainly make sure we're there representing the city, and want to thank you for all that you're doing.
Oh, yeah, she wants me to
Yes, ma'am.
tell you that we're giving 300 tickets to school children
That's
to
right.
see the one Friday night.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Thank you.
Ms. Regina Black.
Uh-oh, here we go. Fireworks number 2.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Regina Black, and I reside at 512 Yorktown Avenue. I want to first start off and thank Mr. Rowe for inviting me to have the tour of the behavioral on Washington Street. And when I left that meeting, you're right, I got the big picture. It's more than just the methadone clinic. It's more than, they have array of programs there. So when I left there, it prompted me to conduct a community impact, or what it would impact our community, and bringing that on that particular property. And what I did was I went down to the city engineers department on yesterday, and I reviewed the site plans. And what I found out from the site plans is that, first from your information from your meeting, is that there is, 2004, that's 4.5 million. In 2009, the bonds are 3 million, and the BHS fund is 2.9 million, which is total funds for this 10.4 million. That's what I found out from a little excerpt you have. And when I looked on the plans, I asked the engineer, his name is Jerry Hopper, and I asked him about were they going to hook up to the existing sewer line. And he told me yes. Well, that's a problem in that area because our sewer lines back up. They're old, and when they back up, the sewer gas comes up into your house. It is a foul and obnoxious odor. And they have to come out to the manholes in the circumference, all around County High, all around, and they have to take this machine. And I called the operations department, the water department, and he explained to me that those pipes are terracotta, and he said that they're old. And I asked him how old, and he said just as old as the houses. Well, 600 Yorktown was built in 1890. That's Ms. Jones' house. So the pipes are 123 years old. And I'm appalled that you're going to hook into the current line and not have them put a new sewer line, and they have $10.4 million. You can't hook this facility that's 2 stories. It is 31,000. Let me get the square footage for you. It's 31,871 square feet. And you're going to hook that new facility up into the existing sewer line that we have. This is the impact on the community I live in, which already backs up. And that gas comes up into your house. It is the most foul thing you ever want to smell. You can't do that. When that bid went out, it didn't go out with a new sewer line in mind. They're going to hook it up to it existing. You can't do that to us. And all this money you have, because it said the funds that are available after that was $712,130.66, and that's what they spent, I guess, already. But so you have a lot of money left, and you can't leave us. You can't do that to us. You can't do that. That's a part of our community impact, what is impacting us in the community. And I'm just appalled you hadn't even thought about that. So when that bid comes on September the 17th at 2 p.m., that's when the city engineer said it is due. He said that, but that's the bid is incomplete because you must, if you're going to do that there, you must have a new sewer line and you have the money. You can't connect it to us. We will have stuff piled up all the time in our house. And that's what happens on that street. Because 510 was built in 1903. 512 was built in 1910, and 516 was built in 1915, I'm sorry. And 123 years old, that's how old the pipes are. And I also have a parking issue here. I noticed on the plans that you're going to be tearing down the city garages there for the parking. But when I was in the meeting, they told me that there are 95 to 100 methadone clients. And they told me that they have other services here. They have the family therapy, women's issues, case managers, clinical evaluations, individuals, groups, family. They have medical assessments. They have a lot of other programs they have, and they told me that it's going to be 2,000 to 4,000 people. Well, there are not enough parking spaces out there.
Let me ask you, Ms. Black, thank you again for coming up. How often do you get that foul smell from your sewer backing up in
They come out. Normally, they do it before the odor comes up, but it's usually a couple of times, maybe a month, and if something's backing up, then people will call. But once that odor comes, see, we have three stools. We have 2.5 baths. So each stool you have, you want to take yourself out up in there. You have to open up all your windows. And it is just humongous. That gas is terrible. So it's not that they don't have enough money to put with the 10.4 million. You have enough money. It's just that you don't care. It's that you don't care. And that's a terrible issue. And what happened is that, Mayor, I just wanted to say this.
Let me ask you another question. Your time's up, but I got a couple of questions, and I think Councilman Meeks and Moody want to ask you a question. The parking issue,
yes.
You were in the process of talking about
yes.
the number of folks and the lack of parking.
Sir.
Did you speak to anyone in engineering while you were there? Or is this something you discovered since that time?
No, I was reviewing the plans.
Okay.
So when I went to review the plans, I had a list of things I want to ask, and one of them was about the sewer line, because we already have a problem with our sewer. And the other one was about the parking. Where were they going to park? Because they're going to be adjacent to basically social services. But social services parking lot is full every day. So that's not an option. And when they tear down the city garage thing there, which they're going to do, and he said they're going to have that parking, but that's not enough because you have their staff that's going to be parking there. You have the 2,000 to 4,000 people they say are in the programs, and you have the meth people who come every day. Everybody done ride the bus, and what that's going to do is we have off-street parking. We don't have a driveway. What that's going to do is that's going to drive them to park. We won't be able to park on our own street in front of our own house. That's what that's going to do. It's going to drive them out there.
But my question was, did you speak to anyone about that issue when you were in engineering?
Well, what I told Mr. Harper, and I asked him what about the parking, and what he said is that they're going to tear down that building for the parking.
Okay. All right, thank you. Councilman Meeks?
Thank you very much, Mayor. The pipe, it's a couple of different steps the city's going to have to go through to actually get the thing. And if the pipes that are in place now can't handle the volume, they're going to upgrade. Is that correct, Manager?
It's obvious that she has some wrong information, and I invite you again to come down and meet with our utility director and our city engineer. And we'll give you a briefing on the storm drainage system for that community and the sanitary sewer system. You don't connect a 30,000 square foot building to a terracotta pipe, so that's, you got some wrong information. Be glad to explain it. Take all the time that's necessary. If you'll call me, in fact, Brian Foster is going to speak with you after you finish, and we can set up the meeting.
Okay.
As far as parking, ma'am, all the clients do not come at the same time. Our zoning ordinance regulate the number of parking spaces each new development has to have, and that applies to the city too. So we'll be glad to give you a full briefing at your convenience, and we'll set that up as soon as you can speak with Brian Foster.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, very much. Appreciate your.
Well, I don't have any wrong information when it comes up in my house. That's not wrong information when the sewer gas comes. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate that. I don't need another tour.
Our final speaker is Ms. Frances Jones.
Oh, wow. Here comes the...
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, City Council, and those behind me. My name is Frances Jones. I live at 600 Yorktown Avenue. That's the 123-year-old house that I bought. Miss Black, I listen to her. She's my neighbor. Listen, Council, Mayor. What do you hear? What do you hear? The most important thing is this. You're building that in front of my house. Do you understand, Mr. Rowe? Did you volunteer to put it in front of your house, sir? Answer me. You're telling her to take another tour. For what? You're building it in front of my house. Do you understand that? My house. The house that I bought in this great city of Portsmouth. And you gonna build it in front of my house? The answer is no. Do you understand? I mean no. Now, let me tell you who I serve. I serve a God that's able to change the heart and the mind of a man whose mind is made up to put it in front of my house. You understand? The word of God says, not by power, nor by might, but it's by my spirit, says the Lord. And I'm that crazy born-again Christian. I'm proud of it. I've seen God move above and beyond. But the most important thing is this. The children that get off on the corner of my street, where I live, at the corner of Yorktown and King, did your children, would you put them in that particular danger, sir? You're the city planner. You're the city manager. What you managing? You're so happy. I want to know, what are you going to gain out of it? I want to know, what are you gaining out of it? It's the children. It's my safety. You know, I brought this chain and lock. See it? This is what I lock my gates with every night. I've got 2 of them. You know why? Because we call it a safe haven home around the corner. My neighbor's car was broken into. Was your car broken into, Mr. Rowe? You're the city manager. Tell me, you're managing this city. I'm a curious mind and I want to know. I am a force to reckon with. You know why? Because I serve a God that never fails. I serve a God that will do above and beyond anything that you may ask or see. I serve a God that if I speak, I'll be like Elijah called down fire from heaven. He doesn't play. I do not fear what man can do unto me. You said it was okay? If you said it was okay, why don't you put it in front of your door? Answer me. Why don't you put it in front of your door? Well, I'm already in pack. I got your attention, didn't I? Do you understand what I'm saying? And I knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you're looking at this crazy black woman, and I want you to take a good look. You know why? Because the God I serve loves me. And he says, when I get on my knees and pray, ask anything you shall, and you will have it. Now, she did the impact study, but you're still saying parking garage. You're still saying sewer line. Put some single-family homes there. Build up the neighborhood, don't tear it down. Are you gonna pay my mortgage? Are you gonna pay my taxes? You don't do nothing for me. I think I pay your tax, I pay my taxes, which help you to get your salary. Now, I am a curious mind. I wanna know, you're talking about planning? Guess
you.
what? I wanna know an answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night. Madam Clerk?
There's no additional business this evening.
Okay, we're adjourned.